Oh, we're live already. Wow. Hey guys, you're watching Tech Radar. I'm Basil.
I'm Andrew.
And it's VR day. Well, it isn't, but we're going to talk about VR.
Yeah.
Specifically, the future of virtual reality. So if you've been living under a rock, virtual reality is not real reality. It is made by people for its virtual. Usually virtual reality glasses go over your face and hopefully cover all your vision.
Yeah.
Make you feel like you're somewhere else.
Yeah, and so VR has got a sort of a long and interesting history that we're kind of what people refer to what the current VR experience is as the second generation of VR.
Okay.
And so if you're really being pedantic about it, Morten Haliak, back in the 1950s and 1960s, created a thing called the Sensorama, which was a booth that you sat in that blew air at you, and it had a number of screens around you.
Okay.
And it was this sensory experience that basically transported you to another world, that it was a virtual world. So hello, we've got some people who are just saying hello. We've also got some chat that is already happening in the comments about AR is better than VR and VR is better than AR. And so, yeah, we will be getting to that in a bit. So augmented reality, just to touch on what that is in case anybody's there going, what's AR, is when you have a digital experience that augments a real experience. So VR is virtual reality. It is a completely different thing than the world that is around you, created by, as Basil said, putting on a display unit onto your head, and you're like, oh, and now I am on the moon, or now I am under the sea, or now I am
under the sea. Wait,
yeah.
Can we on air? No.
Whereas AR is usually when you have, so something like Pokemon Go is a very good example of AR, that you hold your phone up and it is the world that is in front of you,
yes.
Except there is also a little Pikachu.
But
if you're very lucky.
In-device AR. And then you've
Yeah.
got AR that goes over your face, mixed reality AR, like Microsoft's HoloLens. And thus far, AR's looked so good in demos, but in reality, it's not quite lived up. So the demos when Microsoft originally launched the HoloLens, they're doing this Minority Report style swiping in the air, and it was incredible.
Yeah.
And then it's just not quite as fluid as that, whereas at least
not.
with VR you've got a contained experience, you've got a 360-degree plane of movement, and now even people with regular smartphones can capture 180-degree VR, and you can get 360-degree VR cameras.
Yeah.
Sorry, go.
So this is kind of the thing you saying about AR not quite living up to the expectation. I kind of feel like that's true for both VR and AR. That what we want it to be, it isn't yet.
Okay.
And with AR, Magic Leap, which is coming soon.
Who's Magic Leap? So
Magic Leap was a company that basically has been around for a few years, and it was this long-running joke in the technology world that they had $3 billion worth of funding and had never released a product, because basically their whole shtick is, we create the AR glasses that are actually the what you want to have. Because obviously we had HoloLens, which now is having amazing use in building sites and all these sorts of things. They've just got certification to officially be a building reg thing, and so you can get a hard hat with HoloLens built into it, so that when you are laying cable or whatever, you can have a digitally augmented thing going, this is where the gas pipe should go, and all that gubbins. But obviously we had Google Glass and we had HoloLens.
And
we've had lots of things.
Smart glasses are used in warehouses.
Yeah. And so we've had lots of things that are you're going to be able to Robocop your way through life, where you can just look at somebody and it will be this is Basil Cronfleet. He has these interests.
Did you watch Black Lightning yesterday?
No.
Oh,
I didn't.
Ugh. He basically develops this
Spoilers.
Sorry. Well, it's not that big a spoiler, so just hate me, guys. I'm sorry. But he develops this X-ray vision type thing, and it's just so cringe. But anyway, that's, again, actually a really good example of augmented reality. If you imagine you have Superman spectacles on, and you can get X-ray vision that will augment your reality. People in the comments room to stop me going off tangents. A shout out to Henry Matthews, Tech Spotter, Derp Boy 404, who says firmly VR is better than AR. We also have Pradam Pratap Sonkar, Law Butler, mixed reality, all the AR, all the VR. We have social jet lag. VR is really amazing. I think it's the future. Anthony Eden says, hello, Pele. Pele's always here. Hello, Pele.
Hey, Pele.
I just saw a bowl-looking thing that you can sit in, and it'll move as you move in a VR game. It's under $1,000. Good for racing games. Sounds good for racing games.
Yeah, and so this is a really interesting thing that happens a lot in VR, is because VR's a really interesting one, that it basically deals with two of your senses. And so it puts you in a completely different world, almost. Because obviously, we, in contemporary Western world, think that we have 5 senses. Obviously, the medievals thought we had 15 senses, and like all of the proprioception and temperature perception and all of these different senses aren't catered for by VR. And so ultimately, you get in a position where you strap a headset on and you're like, I'm somewhere completely new, and I have to stay completely still because it doesn't really cater for the fact that I'm a human being that needs to move through space. And so you get loads of these devices, and I wrote a whole piece about some of the really crazy ones.
Do you remember what it's called?
I don't remember what it's called, but I'm sure later when you're doing some talking, I could find it and pop the link into the comments.
I think you should do that. You know what you're saying reminds me of?
Go on.
Just theme parks when we were kids, and we went in the bowling alleys and the virtual reality machines, and so they would move around, and there would be a roller coaster, or you'd fly through space, or a really bad 3D animation of space at least.
Yeah, and this is a thing that people are doing. So I think it's up at the top of the view from the Shard, which is a very tall building in London, for those that don't know. There is a VR experience, which is basically like our commenter, I can't remember, I haven't got that screen open, was saying...
Oh, it's Pele.
Pele. Was saying that basically it's this like eggshell type thing that you sit in, and you're on a slide.
Become a weeble wobble.
A weeble wobble.
Like, you know, the things that... Okay, I'll stop talking about random stuff, but that's really cool. And I think that's like where it's going to make VR really, really come into its own for holistic, experiential, transportive, kind of immersive experiences that take advantage of everything. Like, I want it to like smell like a roller coaster. I want it to like get chilly and like feel the wind just... Yeah, it's just going to be amazing, but we're not there yet.
Well, it raises an interesting question, doesn't it, about what is the mode to actually use VR? Because most people use VR when you sort of are sat in your living room and you strap a VR headset to your face.
Does anyone use VR for that?
Yes, I mean, a lot of people. That's
in the living room.
Well, or they study or wherever they keep their computer. But
for gaming.
For gaming.
Yeah. I thought you meant like with I'm in my living room. I'm going to watch an episode of something on Netflix.
Yeah.
There's my TV, but I'll use my VR headset.
Yeah, well, I mean, if your VR headset was good enough, or you liked using it enough, that you were like, I've got a 32-inch TV. If I put on a VR headset, I'm in the cinema.
Yeah.
Then cool.
And if you've got a really dinky apartment, and like somewhere like Hong Kong where space is at such a premium and you won't have enough space to have your 52-inch TV, or you're on an aeroplane and you want to fly and not feel like you're on an aeroplane flying.
Yeah. You know, I think I found it.
Cool.
And it's got the most ridiculous title of anything ever.
The problem with VR is that we're stupid human meat sacks with too many senses. Throw it into the live chat.
That's going into the live chat.
As you do, we're going to shout out to some more people. Nemlapot Senki, Social Jetlag has commented again. I think it will become the standard for gaming in like 9 to 10 to 20 years. And I'm very restless for VR to become the standard. Interesting. We also have Judas in the chat room, but we're going to ignore him for now. Yeah, and hello Rahul, peace sign to you.
So a thing that I was just going to say is that it feels like there are alternatives that are coming about now that are ways to use VR that are more physically inclusive. And so these include VR arcades.
Yes.
And so it's a really interesting thing that I was at an Oculus event. So for those that don't know, the two sort of major players in consumer gaming VR and also sort of VR experiences are Oculus Rift and HTC Vive. And so I was at an Oculus event, and there was a guy there from the Raindance Film Festival who was saying that in Japan they call VR experiences rides. And it feels like actually that's a more appropriate thing to call them, because they're not films, and like the games are games, but they're like an immersive experience. And so it's like immersive theatre is a different branch of theatre, and it feels a bit like there's all of those stories about the very early days of cinema and the possibly apocryphal tale of people running screaming from the cinema where they see a train coming towards them, and it feels like we're at that stage, that it's the early stages of a new media, and people are still trying to treat it as if it's something else. Like they're still treating VR as if it's a cinema experience but strapped to your face, or as if it's a game that's strapped to your face, and it's not really the case. It is a new media in and of itself, and we are going to be getting to the point where people find out how that works, and I think that these VR arcades are part of that. So there's one that is currently in London, in a big shopping centre called Westfield, which is a Star Wars experience made by people called The Void, I think.
Yeah.
And so The Void did an experience which was a Ghostbusters experience at Madame Tussauds in the US, and they've got this Star Wars one in the UK, and basically you have a blaster and you strap on a VR headset and you walk around a building that has been specifically created so that it is the digital world that you are entering is mapped directly onto the physical space that you're literally in. And so you are somebody disguised as a stormtrooper breaking into a base in order to steal plans, and like there are bursts of lava that happen and heat vents open up, so you do have this multi-sensory experience. And it does feel like
Have you done it?
I haven't. John Porter and Gerald Lynch did it, and that's on the site, them writing about that. But yeah, it feels to me like these experiences are going in the direction of what VR has the potential to be.
So, okay, cool. So they're kind of like insights as to what we're going to experience. Anyone in the chat room right now, I'm sorry, Google isn't playing nice, or YouTube isn't playing nice with links. So your link didn't work in there. But I have pasted some text that you can just copy into Google, and hopefully it'll play nice with the following link. Free roaming Star Wars experience VR hits Westfield, London. If you're indeed in London, have experienced it, let us know how it is in the live chat, and we'll continue to chat to you guys, but we do have an agenda of sorts. Okay, so I pasted that Westfield one in there. Does the link work? No, it doesn't. How strange. It keeps taking us to for a page not found. No worries, I will paste just the text that you need to search in order to find it. We'll get to the bottom of that after the live show. Tech, gremlins, live everywhere. Yeah, so we have one thing that we do want to talk about, and that's where is mobile VR? And is mobile VR the past, or is it the future, or is it both?
So this is a really interesting thing, that basically the way that the big companies all talk about VR is that VR is one of those things where as soon as you've actually experienced it for yourself, you go, this is amazing, and people want to be involved in it, but it's really difficult to get people to invest in a headset that costs $1,000.
Yes, it is.
On top of a computer that already costs $1,000 just so that you can do it.
Absolutely.
And so the sort of the biggest numbers of VR headsets go to the cheaper options.
Yeah.
And so you do have things like the Google Daydream, you have things like the Samsung Gear VR, where you basically use your smartphone and strap it into a headset, and that becomes your heads-up display.
In tiering, you've got at the base Google Cardboard. So Google Cardboard is a standard which Google launched. It was really smart because one of the big problems with VR is, especially to use one of the more accomplished rigs, you've got to get into an environment that supports it. And like Andrew said, it's going to be £1,000 setup at least for a good VR experience. So in order to get it into people's hands, experiences people can share with people, I've given my cardboards to friends, family and stuff like that. This was a really, really nice way of introducing it. Above that, you've got Google Daydream and Gear VR.
And then what we're seeing now is that there is a move towards slightly more affordable freestanding VR experiences coming from HTC and Oculus. With the Oculus Go and the Oculus Vive.
The HTC Vive Pro.
The HTC Vive Focus.
But this isn't the same in the sense that rather than being powered by your smartphone, this time round it's actually going to be relaying information that's powered by your PC. So it's going to effectively be a streaming service.
Or if it's a total standalone, then it's a standalone.
Or if it's a standalone, it's a total stand. Which is a total standalone?
I think the
are they both?
I think the Go and the Vive Focus are total standalones.
My bad. I thought. Oh no, it's the Vive Pro that will have a wireless. That's what I was.
So this is a big thing with.
I'm more excited about that.
So the really high end VR headsets. You have this massive cable coming out of the back of your head like you are a creature from Avatar. And it's a problem. Like I have nearly garroted myself a number of times trying to get into and out of a VR headset.
But if anyone can do the Bane voice, it's you. And having all those things makes you feel like Bane.
Does make you feel a bit like Bane. And this is something that HTC has obviously realized is a major thing. So the standalone headsets are obviously wireless, and with the HTC Vive Pro, it also has a wireless adapter, and so you can have a wireless experience.
And that's blowing my mind because you get the graphical capabilities of a gaming rig in a wireless setup.
And it's like, isn't it a 78% improvement in terms of dots per inch, the HTC Vive Pro on the original HTC Vive?
Over 600 pixels per inch. Or is it 600 or 700? Either way.
I mean,
exactly. So we've had some interesting questions around, can you get Dolby Vision and Dolby HDR on VR headsets? So the screens are all OLED screens. It's like on the high end ones. At Google Cardboard, you can't. It'll be dependent upon the smartphone. So I mean, already on smartphones, you have like Dolby Vision or HDR10 at least on smartphones. I don't know if HTC's come out with any official certification around the OLED displays they use. I can't remember.
That's a good question.
That's a really good question.
I don't know off the top of my head.
But in terms of the Go and the Explore, which was the other one? So the Oculus Go.
And the HTC Vive Focus.
Vive Focus. Like a nutshell, like 20-second explanation as to what they are.
So they are just complete standalone headsets, and so you can use them without a phone or without a computer. And I think I can't remember the exact pricing, but they are. They are less expensive than the super top of the range sets, but it's basically a way of having a VR experience, and it's got is it 6 ranges of tracking,
so
that
like
you
the
can
Lenovo Mirage.
Exactly, so you can move around and exist in a VR world.
Incredible.
Entirely standalone.
Incredible. Okay, so we've established mobile VR was the past, and it's kind of the present because it makes it accessible. And then you've got the next generation of VR that isn't necessarily mobile, isn't going to rely on your smartphone, but it is going to leverage portability in a big way, whether it's through wireless adapters so you can keep your PC power, or whether it's through the next generation of portable VR headsets.
We've got, so TechSpotter has said a couple of interesting things which I'd just like to jump in
Please do.
And so TechSpotter has said future of VR will be shopping at home, and also has said flight training. And so these are both quite interesting things, that the idea of actually the first one, the digital shopping thing, is definitely going to become a thing. Like, we're already seeing AR as an application for furniture manufacturers, that you can hold your tablet up and go, okay, if I put my sofa there, what would it look like? And so it measures your room and puts the exact dimensions of a sofa being there. And there was talk, wasn't there, about Airbnb, that you could take a VR tour of the place before you actually decide whether or not you want to go there. And so there is definitely an application out there for using virtual reality to be able to experience things that you would want to experience. So if you wanted to go to a shop and see if you liked something and move it around in your hands, that is something that is possible.
With the Gear VR, the launch campaign had Thomson's do a try before you fly trial, where they had VR headsets in travel agents, and it's currently used in a lot of travel agents.
Yeah. And the flight training thing is really interesting, because it's not just flight training. This is one of the things that I find really fascinating. I go to a lot of these sort of VR expos, and because we're a consumer tech site, we do mostly, almost exclusively, cover the things that are the consumer tech side of it. But there are so many business applications for VR, and this is kind of what happened with AR, with HoloLens, that it was created and all of the gamers and normal consumers were like, yeah, we're gonna get on board with this. And then actually what happened was businesses were like, this is really useful, we can train people using these tools, and VR is having some amazing things that it can do. Like, there was a study done that it's a really effective way of treating people that have post-traumatic stress disorder, and there was a story about people training surgeons. So if you're going to be doing like really high level life or death surgery on children, there was a hospital that was using VR as a way of basically having a mannequin in front of a doctor and then having a VR headset, so that there were the noises, the sounds, the all of the stress that comes with being in that experience. And so, like, as traumatic as this sounds, they had got an actress playing the mother of that child who was crying, and you had all of the sensory input of that situation, where if you were just there with a mannequin, it would feel quite sterile. And so actually being able to create a virtual reality augmented world that goes around it is amazing at being able to train people. And like, McDonald's used VR to train managers in a scenario so that you can effectively make mistakes in your training. And it's a thing that comes up time and time again with VR, is that people's memories of doing a VR experience is more like a memory of actually doing that thing than it is of playing a game. Okay. And so training using VR is vastly more effective than having somebody sit down and run through exercises, or like talking them through what their job's going to be. If there is a way that you can have a VR experience which is what the job's going to be, they're far more likely to be good at their job, which is amazing.
Well, and that makes sense. So my undergrad was psychology, and I know that if you have a salient emotional memory, which you're more likely to get through sensory stimulation, then you're more likely to have it ingrained in your long-term memory rather than your short-term memory and your working memory. So that's really, really cool. So Ready Player One.
Yes.
That's happening.
That is happening.
How far away are we from a VR world that we've had like digital worlds, we've had like Second Life, we've had people just get consumed by the digital. Now it should be more immersive and easier to get lost in. Do you think that's on the cards?
What, of us losing people to just living entirely in VR worlds?
Within reason.
Within reason. Yeah, I mean, it's an interesting one, isn't it? Because I think there is always the danger of, if there is a digital experience that you can do that is more exciting or pleasurable than your real life, that you're going to spend more time doing it. Like, we already have that. Like, there is already, well, one of the stories that's doing really well on the site at the moment is about people.
You're gonna say it.
I'm not going to say it. You can look it up, but it's about people having unhealthy practices whilst playing World of Warcraft, because they get addicted to living in that world and the experience of being in it. And obviously, if you can get home from work and put on a VR headset, and suddenly you're somewhere magical and amazing, and you exist in a narrative where you are
a unicorn
or whatever, always a unicorn, then yeah, why aren't you going to do it? But yeah, at the moment there are limitations to how comfortable it is to wear a headset for a long period of time, how good it is for your eyes, the motion sickness thing, and like there is the real problem that people have when they spend a long time in VR, that they come out of it and it does genuinely mess with your perception of reality. That you do come out of it and it feels less real. But like, that's kind of to be expected, isn't it? That like, I don't know how relatable an experience this is, but if you've spent more than half an hour on a treadmill and then you get off a treadmill,
your legs are wobbly.
But also walking normally, the world is moving in like it's really weird. Like if you play Temple Run for more than half an hour, which I think is quite telling about me that I have both play Temple Run for more than half an hour and run on a treadmill for more than half an hour. But like, you stop playing it and your eyes are processing the world in a way that it feels like everything should just be constantly moving. But like, if you spend a really long period of time in VR,
there is a reacclimatization period.
Yeah.
That does make sense. So for anyone who isn't familiar with the concept, Ready Player One, the premise is you've got this world called the Oasis, and I'm not giving anything away here just yet, and I won't. But you've got the Oasis. It's a really great book, but it's a virtual world that the entire population, because the world has become so dystopian, people don't want to live in the real world, so they just live in this virtual world when possible, and the protagonist, you know, has a lot of fantastical adventures. Like I said, I'd really recommend the book, but what it does offer as well is an incredible insight into the psychological implications of VR and escapism, because with the internet, with just screens, we've lost a lot of people to it. You know, at the end of the day, people who might otherwise have actually braved real life. It's brought amazing things, it's wonderful, but like any force, it's neither innately good or bad, it's what people do with it. So there's a danger of things like even VR crime, things like, you know, just it's scary, because if you flash a certain series of lights, you can trigger things like epileptic fit, whatever like that. So having this close quarters with your tech, you're making yourself quite vulnerable.
Yeah. But I like, that's kind of true of anything.
Yeah.
But like any piece of tech that you use, you're like, if you get behind the wheel of a car, you're at risk of crashing it.
You're very right. We have the British Unknown in the chat room, and we haven't shouted out the British Unknown. In fact, it has been a bit of time before we shouted out people. So yeah, British Unknown says that he thinks we're at least 20 years away from being lost in VR. I want the...
If we were even like, This is the thing, isn't it? That we are clearly at the early stages of this technology, and like there are people that are working on a holographic virtual reality, and so there is a very real movement in the VR world that VR for now is about having a thing on your face, but that's an unnatural way of doing VR, and eventually we're not going to be doing that anymore. And there are already people that are working on holographic VR technology, and so the holodeck from Star Trek
and the Help Me Obi-Wan,
it could be that in 20 years time everyone will be like, those idiots strapping things to their faces.
But it's got to start somewhere, and if strapping things to your faces is where it begins for a better future, I'm all for it. Just imagine Second Life implemented into Google Earth. That would be basically a virtual copy of our world. Vile, that's my favourite comment so far. So I mean, again, the Oasis in Ready Player One was to compensate for, you know, a broken world. But what's cool about this idea is also you could have a duplicate world where you have a different point in history. So even if you're in a, like, I went to Rome, and we went to like really like old ruins of bathhouses and stuff. Okay, that's going to be a dodgy VR experience, but if you just like have, you know, headset on that shows you how it would have been at the time, and it just feels like you're there, and you've got sound and everything as you look through a museum.
And this is a thing that is already being done, that there is, I wish I could remember where it was, but there's basically a cave that the people that were the guardians of this particular historic site.
It's Aladdin.
No, okay. This is a real thing that is this is in the real world. But basically, the amount of tourists that were going through this cave, their breath was having a negative effect chemically on the walls of the cave, the artwork on the walls of the cave. And so what they have created is a VR experience replica of the cave, so that they can actually maintain the cave, but people can still experience it. And obviously, this means that you can experience it from wherever. And so it's like it's kind of a double-edged thing, isn't it? That people go, oh, well, then you just never leave your house because you can just go and visit the Colosseum from your living room. But like, there are people who can't visit the Colosseum, and those people will now get to.
Yeah, there are people who can't leave their house. Like, it's that simple.
Yeah.
And also, when you look at how it could open up experiences, like a VR headset is comparatively cheap. Again, Google Cardboard. Yes, you need a smartphone, but in a lot of environments, like, for example, Canon's doing this really cool initiative where it trains people in Africa to use like mixed media, so that they can, it's in Ghana specifically, so that they can be more self-sufficient, like giving them like even photographic experiences and stuff like that. It's just like, making the world a more lateral playing field.
Yeah, exactly.
Which is very cool. Right, we're going to do a few last shout outs before we sign off, because it has been the full half hour. You go.
Amo Goyal, I apologise, but has asked, could a Magic Leap or AR headset replace a smartphone? And I think that this is a really interesting thing, because I think yes.
But then a headset replacing something that's in your pocket.
Yeah. Because why couldn't it? Because if you have it that you've got things which do bone induction sound, so that it could play your music or transfer your calls, if you could read your messages on it, if you could take photos using a camera that's built into it, if you could do basically everything that you want to do, like if you could have apps on it.
But you'll look like Black Lightning.
Okay, so at the moment, this is the Magic Leap. We've got lots of coverage about the Magic Leap on our site at the moment, and there was recently a thing about the price of the Magic Leap, and it's basically the price of a high-end mobile phone. And people were like, what does that mean? And they were like, it's the price of a high-end mobile phone. They were like, so like iPhone X? And they were like, yeah, well, and they apparently weren't shooting that down. So like £1,000 or dollars. Yeah. So obviously, unless you are really keen on AR, you're probably not going to be buying one and also having a smartphone. But if it was your smartphone, then it would feasibly be a replacement for it.
Yeah.
And like this is still really early stage technology. And the reason that Magic Leap, I mentioned Magic Leap earlier in the show, and the reason it's taken such an unbelievably long time to get to market is because it has been going through stages and stages and stages of trying to get to a point where it actually can just be a pair of glasses that you wear on your face. That it's gone from being a backpack with glasses to being like a thing that you have on the side of your belt with glasses, to finally just being a pair of glasses. And obviously at the moment that it is still this massive bulky thing that isn't fashion conscious, but
based on how far they've come, the direction is that it will potentially replace your smartphone one day,
or could,
but so let's check back in a year and see what progress they've made with that. It's interesting because as like I've worked with smartphones now for the last 9 years, and the evolution of the fundamental form factor, if anything, it's streamlined completely. Companies are less inclined to be daring in any way, shape or form. I mean, the most daring smartphone out right now is the ZTE foldable one, followed by the Samsung Galaxy Note series, because it has a pen. But so actually, to move away from that will be exciting, and I think progress will also, in that respect, open people's eyes up to further developing other form factors. Yeah. Because the smartphone doesn't do phone stuff now. It does everything. Yeah. And so maybe there is another form factor better suited to do everything than a candy bar in our pocket. Yeah. And on that note, A few final shout outs. We have WhatsApp says, hey.
Hi there.
Hi there. Coating Way asks about phones. Not in this podcast, don't, or live show. But check back on Tuesday for all the phone chat. Yes, we will be here. It'll probably be a Mobile World Congress 2018 roundup because I'll be there.
I won't be there.
I'll be holding the fort here. But we also have a shout out too. I think that's all the shout outs.
That's all the shout outs.
Jens Puchka says bye. And Lord Butler and Prasad Patra. Thank you guys. You've all been incredibly talkative, and that makes our lives a lot easier. Andrew, you've been a fountain of knowledge as ever, and you're not even feeling well. Look at him.
I'm not feeling brilliant.
Such a trooper.
Yeah.
I'm fine. So
you're always fine.
Stop. Check back Tuesday. Bye guys.
Bye.